Hey there, Mudroomers. It is Carmen here from Mako. Today I wanted to talk about our monthly combo glaze for this month, which is Honeycomb. Honeycomb is a crystal glaze from our stoneware glaze line. It is available in our 16-ounce pints here, as well as in increments of 5 pounds in dry form. For our dry crystal glazes, we do actually recommend pouring them. So if you'd like more information and a tutorial as to how to mix and pour our stoneware crystal glazes, please check out a video on our YouTube channel all about pouring our stoneware dry crystal glazes. So to get started about Honeycomb here, I wanted to kind of go over some basic stuff that you can find on the label. So here we have the lot number. This is gonna be something that you need to keep track of and report to us if you have any issues with the glaze. This is kind of how we locate which batch of glaze you're using. That's also available on the dry bags, so please keep your dry bag or log that number if it is something that you're using there. And then something that has caused a bit of confusion recently has been the food and dinnerware safe standing of our stoneware crystal glazes. So just so you guys know, all of our stoneware crystal glazes are considered both food safe and dinnerware safe. So unfortunately, this is one of our old labels that does not denote it directly on the label, which we definitely understand and hear you guys. It is a bit confusing. So we have updated all of our labels to denote that directly on the label. I have a updated label of a different glaze here. So this would be where you would find the ACMI and dinnerware safe standing of our glazes moving forward. So if that's not available on the label, please check out our website. You can click on the glaze there and it'll be under additional information, and that will tell you the food safe standing of any particular glaze. And so just so you know, all of our stoneware crystal glazes are both food safe and dinnerware safe, which does include this glaze, Honeycomb. So some more information on the label. Here we're showcasing the firing range, and then here we have a description of the glaze, application, and then various tips which have to do with kind of crystal glaze performance or any kind of performance or application tips that you'd want. These will be found on the back of the label here. And all this information is also available on our website, so definitely if you're questioning for the most up-to-date information, definitely look at our website. Like I said previously, this is kind of an outdated label, but we have changed them moving forward, so hopefully those will be out in the market soon. As you can see here, it says cone 5-6, but we do recommend we do showcase a firing glaze for our glazes from cone 5 up to cone 10, which we just kind of put information together here. Here we have the cone 10 recommendation, but just so we didn't confuse anybody, we wanted to make sure everybody knew that they could use these glazes, so this will be changed in the future. So going into these samples that I have here, I want to first talk about this is what we would consider to be sort of our standard. So this is SW-117 at cone 6. We have 1, 2, and 3 coats here. You can kind of see how the color changes as it gets applied a bit thicker. This dark brown breaking is really apparent on my 2 coats, which could be equivalent to someone else's 3 coats. So always keep that in mind. I'm kind of a heavy glazer, so 1, 2, and 3 coats, you can see I have a really homogeneous color because I'm a thick glazer here. And here we have just 3 coats on the whole tile. You can see how this matte base contrasts with this beautiful gloss that's created by the crystals in the glaze here. We've got these nice golden and yellow colored crystals that add some gloss and variation. The base glaze here, as you can see, is very, very stable. It does not move even at 3 coats. The crystals are going to create a bit of movement, so definitely keep in mind the crystal loading on your piece when you're applying it, because if you do have a heavy crystal loading at the bottom, I definitely don't think it would run off of the piece, but it could create some sag. So if you are going to glaze something really tight at the bottom, maybe only do 2 coats at the bottom, or just brush a couple of those crystals off there. So this is kind of what we would consider to be Mako's standard, but obviously these glazes are very versatile and can be used in a variety of firing environments and on a variety of clay bodies. So I have a couple more samples here. I want to showcase what it looks like at cone 5 because, like I said previously, we do have that recommended firing range from cone 5 up to cone 10. So the glaze isn't much different. You can see, of course, there's not as much heat work here, so these crystals are not quite melting as much. The glaze is a bit drier. The color stays pretty similar. And if you see on the back here, this kind of showcases a more direct contrast of the 3 coats at cone 5 and 3 coats at cone 6. So again, there is less crystal movement here. And this is a bit more brown than this is, I would say, I guess. So there is a bit of a color shift with the full 3 coats there. So here we have 3 coats at cone 5, 3 coats at cone 6, and just a bit of variation there, which looks pretty nice, actually. They both look really, really gorgeous. So it just kind of depends on what it is that you're looking for. And so here we have our cone 10 reduction results. So here's our cone 6 3 coats and our cone 10 reduction at 3 coats. You can see the shift there. It definitely does get a bit darker. The crystals kind of smooth out into the glaze a bit, and then the finish is a bit more shiny here. It's still going to break over texture, still kind of in the brown field, and you can see the yellow crystals in here as well. So those are kind of our 3 standard firing ranges that we test things at. Of course, it could be fired anywhere in between there. You could do a cone 6 reduction if you wanted. Again, as always, these glazes are very versatile, so we just want to make sure that this product works for you, which is why we're showcasing it in all of these environments here. And so moving on from just our typical firing temperatures, we have our fluxes. So we definitely like to showcase how different glazes perform with flux because they all do vary a bit. So as usual, the light flux is on this side and the dark flux is on this side. The light flux is going to add a nice cream or off-white variation, and the dark flux on this glaze in particular adds a bit of a blue darker variation. So on this tile here, I did reseed the coats in anticipation of the movement from the flux. So I did 1 coat to the bottom. You can see how it's that darker color. 2 coats up about this much, and then my 3rd coat I only took down to here. And as you can see, there was a bit of movement, so I'm glad I brought those coats up so we could still read my information on the bottom here. So this is our flux underneath the honeycomb. So I did 2 coats of flux, and then I applied the reseeded 3 coats of honeycomb on top of the flux for this particular sample. And on the back here, I have the reverse. So I have the flux over the honeycomb. Again, I did reseed the coats. The light flux doesn't look much different. The dark flux, you can see the honeycomb did influence this a bit more. So instead of having this translucent, shiny blue, we have a bit more of a matte, lighter blue here. So these are the cone 6 samples, and then I do have a sample of it at cone 10. So on the cone 10 sample, I just have the flux over the honeycomb, which this definitely moved a lot more than I anticipated. I think the kiln did get a bit hot, but even at that, this is a lot of movement, so just keep that in mind. The honeycomb glaze is a really stable base glaze, which is why this movement is really surprising to me. It could have just been the thickness of the glaze application, but just keep an eye on the color performance here. So this is kind of going to be the color that's added when you add light flux at cone 10 to honeycomb over. And then this is going to be the color that's added if you add the dark flux over the Honeycomb at cone 10. So you could definitely be a little bit more in control of this movement, maybe only apply one coat of Flux, or make sure you brush your coats out a little bit more, and you could have more control of this mobility that's happening over here. So those are our fluxes with the Honeycomb, and then here I have the different clay body samples. So Honeycomb performs pretty well on a variety of clay bodies. Here we have a white speckled clay body. This looks pretty much like regular Honeycomb, except the speckles do come through a bit, which looks really nice and adds a bit of variation. We're still breaking over the texture here, having that darker brown on the lighter areas. And here we have it on a brown speckled body, which it does get a little bit darker on that dark body, but not too much. And these speckles are a bit more prominent, probably because they are more just prominent in the clay body in general, as you can see, kind of contrasting that there. So it does add a bit of variation. The speckles pretty much always come through any glaze that you put over top of it, which I really like how it adds that variation there. But we still have got a nice matte glaze with these gloss crystals here. Looks pretty good. We don't have really any pitting or bubbling, which is something that I really kind of try and pay attention to when I'm looking at glazes on alternative clay bodies. Any darker brown clay bodies, sometimes red clay bodies, but typically this dark brown is kind of the most finicky clay body with glazes. So this here, we still don't really have any pitting. Where you have it really heavy, we do, which is kind of just typical of the matte glaze in general. I do like how the brown kind of comes through where these crystals break open and adds a bit of darkness and depth there. I think it looks really nice. And then I love how this breaks on the texture here. That really just like darkens it up. So I think that this would look really, really nice on some texture. As you can see, this beautiful contrasting kind of like dark breaking that happens because we're on that darker clay body. And these were all fired at cone 6 with a 10-minute hold. We typically always add a 10-minute hold onto our firings with alternative clay bodies in hopes of preventing any pinholing, which seems to have worked here. Specifically with the matte glazes, that's something I really worry about with pinholing, and this one worked great. So I'm really excited about that there. And so here we have a couple of our combo samples from this month. If you want access to our monthly combo sheets, definitely check out the Glaze combo gallery on our website. We have printable PDFs of the cone 6 and cone 10 combinations, as well as just a searchable Glaze combo gallery. So you can hopefully find whatever you need there. If you can't find it there, we do have a resource on Facebook, Mako Mudroom Society, which is where our customers kind of talk about their ceramic journey and the way that they like to use our products. So that's a really good resource. If you're not on there already, definitely check out Mako Mudroom Society on Facebook. And then we're always commenting and kind of supporting that page, as well as just posting more content on Mako Mudroom, which is our admin page, which comments on Mako Mudroom Society. So definitely please check both of those out. You'll get lots of our resources available on our page, as well as just talking to other users of our products on the society page. So here I have, these are all cone 6 combinations. This one here, these two are both non-crystal glazes paired with Honeycomb. So you can see on both of these, the crystals do come through the glaze, the top glaze a bit. So this one here, I'm showcasing Cinnabar over Honeycomb, and here I'm showcasing Copper Jade over Honeycomb. So this is a gloss glaze, which really definitely glossed it up, and then the copper glaze here, the matte ended up coming through it pretty well. So you kind of have a variety of finishes on this one, which I like. But on both of them, you can see the crystals popping through, but they do melt a bit into the glaze. So like I say, with any stonework crystal glaze combination, just keep in mind of your crystal loading Again, like I said previously, loading a lot of crystals near the bottom can be a bit risky, especially if you're applying, you know, 4, 5, 6 coats of glaze. That's gonna add some mobility to even stable glazes, especially crystal glazes. So those are our 2 non-crystal glazes, and here I have 2 crystal glazes, which I kind of wanted to showcase because these crystals do kind of melt in together and get a bit lost in the sauce, but I love the variety that it adds here. So this is Shipwreck over top of Honeycomb, and this is Lime Shower over top of Honeycomb. So really with the Lime Shower crystals kind of take it over, but I love this soft mint green that's created by adding that creamy brown of the Honeycomb underneath. And again, this one is a lot more mobile because it's 2 crystal glazes layered together. So we're really happy we had this this lip here to catch it. And then here we've got our Shipwreck. Again, the crystals did add a bit of movement, but it does seem like not quite as much as the Lime Shower. So these are all Fire to Cone 6. And it's on a white slip cast clay body. Again, like I said previously, these combo sheets are available on our website. So now I just want to kind of showcase using the Honeycomb. So I'm gonna move these out of the way a little bit. And I've got my tile here. And I just kind of want to show you guys how Honeycomb works, because if you're not familiar with stonework crystal glazes, this is actually going to have chunks of crystals in it. So glass aggregate kind of is added here. You'll be able to see once I start applying it. So I'll do 1, 2, and 3 coats just to kind of show you how this is going on here. So I'm gonna make sure this is nice and stirred up so I have access to all of these crystals. Since this is not a new jar, I don't need to do the initial stir, but typically when you first open a jar, you're gonna wanna take a spoon or a palette knife or the back of your brush to really get those crystals out, because they're gonna be packed into the bottom of your pint here. So you'll mix that, put the lid on, shake it up, mix it again, and depending on the crystal glaze, you might need to pour it out on a plate to access the crystals. These crystals are pretty small and have a variety of sizes, so they really stay suspended in the glaze pretty well. But definitely always mix it up before each coat even, just to redistribute those crystals. So as you can see here, I really like to load up my brush. That has a lot to do with my heavy glazing, but I think that most of our glazes perform really, really well when they're applied a bit heavier, because I really like that melting and dynamic surface that's created when a glaze is applied really thick. So I've got my nice thick application. I'm just spreading that on there like peanut butter on toast, you know. So it starts kind of scraping a little bit. I'll get a little bit more glaze to complete that first coat, but there we go. That's my first coat there. So you can see these crystals that are applied here, and that's totally normal to have those in there. So I'm just gonna set that down and let that dry for a bit, and I'll pop back in here and apply my second and third coat as well. All right, that first coat dries pretty quick. You can see it's still a little bit glossy where it's pooled around the crystals, but mostly all of the shine's gone. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply my second coat. Again, really load in that brush up. I like to really put that glaze on there. I don't like my brush pulling or anything like that. So get that nice even application. And since these crystals are suspended so well in the glaze, getting an even crystal application is so easy here. All right, so we've got our second coat. Nice even crystals, good thick application. And we'll have the magic of video to let this guy dry. All right, so here we go for our third coat. You can see here we're pretty much dry, so I'm just gonna go ahead and load on that next coat here. All right, so nice and thick application. glide it on really smooth. That third coat goes on really easy once you've kind of saturated that that's glazed surface there. So that's 3 coats, and once it's fired, it should look just like that. And I think that about covers it for what I had for our honeycomb glaze today. So I really hope that this was helpful to you guys. And please check out our website for those combo sheets again. And we also have a searchable distributor page, so you can find your closest Mako distributor to purchase your Mako glazes. So thanks again for tuning in, everybody, and happy glazing!